Wow, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Have y'all been seeing what Errol Spence Jr. has been posting on Twitter? I'm going to read to you guys a couple statements right now. In one of them, claiming not to put the blame on Derrick James. Y'all remember I made that video yesterday. The whole boxing world going absolutely berserk over the breaking news. Errol Spence Jr. sitting down with Andre Ward explaining what actually went down, what went wrong, leading up to July 29th's undisputed world title clash against Terrence Bud Crawford. Errol Spence Jr. basically put the blame on Derrick James. Yes, he put some blame on himself, talking about not being right outside of camp, going to inside of camp. How that didn't work well for him. But for the majority of that interview, when he talked about not sparring for 6 weeks leading up into the fight, 6 to 7 weeks, when he talked about, oh, you would think that Derrick James would have me, block a couple punches here, a couple punches there. You would have thought that he would have got me some southpaw fighters. The way that he made it sound was if he was putting the blame on Derrick James. So he's on Twitter now saying to not put the blame on Derrick James. He's retracting what he's saying. But the first tweet that he came out with was, regardless, Bud was disciplined and he deserved and earned his W. He comes out with that tweet because he sees the reaction from the boxing world. 50-50 split. You got people saying, wow, what a great interview, Errol Spence Jr. I love you, this, and that. Glad to hear the truth. And you've got other boxing fans, the other half, saying, what the hell, dude? You lied. You lost me personally $200. You lost a lot of people thousands and thousands of dollars leading up to that fight at the last press conference, talking game, talking like if nothing was wrong. Even though there was a couple boxing content channels out there letting y'all know that Errol Spence Jr. actually got hurt 6 to 7 weeks before that fight went down. Took a body shot from exactly who? Quentin Randall. Shout out to Showbiz for keeping up with that during that time. And all of it coming to fruition as Errol Spence Jr. comes out with the news. He had to take a shot of cortisol to the stomach. The dude wasn't able to spar for weeks. Everything that he said ended up coming true. Now, in that interview with Andre Ward, Errol Spence Jr. still doesn't bring up that. So if you don't want to call it a fact, you don't have to. But the boxing world went absolutely berserk on him. And Errol Spence Jr. says, you can tell who watched only the clips and who watched the full interview. LOL. Y'all complain about everything. If I had said I'm not fighting and sat out for a couple years, then came back, y'all would have called me the biggest duck in history. Watch the full interview. Stop watching clips. Now, look it, bro. Errol Spence Jr. can spin it whatever way he wants to spin it. But we're not dumb, right? The boxing world ain't dumb. We know exactly what you were saying. Errol Spence Jr. saying, if I had said something, if I'm not fighting and sat out for a couple years, like if he would have said, that he was hurt and he would have tried to postpone the fight, a lot of people would have called him a duck. But that's not what people were asking for. For you to, pull out of that fight, take a couple years off and then come back. If you had an injury, people just wanted the honest truth. There's people putting their hard-working money on this. But yet, to some of these fighters coming into these fights with injuries, yes, they got to feed their kids. They got, people to take care of. Aren't thinking about the other people out there that aren't the richest, that are putting money on you, hoping that you win, backing you up, when you're just lying to the fans. Y'all complain about everything. Bro, you could have postponed that fight for 4 to 5, 6 months right after. Could have did it. 3 months. Could have did it. If you weren't 100% going into that fight with Terrence Bud Crawford, but now are coming out with the excuses, it just doesn't look good, bro. Errol Spence Jr.'s last tweet says, Derrick not to blame either. It's me, LOL. I mean, come on, dude. First of all, nobody asked you to retire or to stay out of the boxing world for 3 years. Trying to make the argument, yeah, if I would have stayed out of boxing and pulled out of that fight with Terrence Bud Crawford, y'all would have called me the biggest duck in history. Of course we would have. Of course. The boxing world would have did all that. Y'all know the boxing world is one of the most diabolical worlds in all of sports. But nobody said that. Nobody asked for that, bruh. You could have just postponed the fight for a couple months. And sure, some people would have called you a duck, but then the fight would have ended up happening. Come on. Come on, Spence. It's all bad, man. But I'll tell you this, bro. Everybody makes mistakes. I think Errol Spence Jr. is in the time right now where him going into that interview and, you know, being honest with Andre Ward and giving the truth, I think it kind of backfired on him. I think a lot of his fans seen something different in him. Some of the other fans, they stay solid and they don't pay attention to certain things. They don't want to pay attention to the truth. At the end of the day, everybody makes mistakes. I'm still rooting for Errol Spence Jr. to beat Tim Tszyu. I just hope he ain't lying to us no more, bro. If there's something wrong with them leading up into a fight, in one of the biggest fights of his career, let's just say this Tim Tszyu fight, and he hasn't sparred with Ronnie Shields, or he's got some type of injury, and he's going to have to take a cortisol shot the week before, just let us know, dog. Just let us know, bro. For real. Your name is Errol the True Spence Jr. Don't make people have to start changing your nickname to the Liar. Errol the Liar Spence Jr. It's the truth. The truth has come out. It's been a couple years too late. But at the end of the day, let's just see where we go on in the future. Let me know what you guys think, man. Absolutely breaking news.